Hello, hello, hello. I'm Erica Lynn, better known as Erica Lynn Speaks.
If I can think about it for a second, learn to live life for the better. I had hard times, got a life coach for depression, got a life coach for depression. Now it's all mine, living days full of hard times. Erica Lynn, work on your mind, let's get on your grind. Working on the feelings inside, Erica Lynn got me on the rise.
Erica Lynn speaks, so the Erica Lynn speaks, so the Erica Lynn speaks, yeah, yeah. Erica Lynn speaks, so the Erica Lynn speaks, so the Erica Lynn speaks, yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, alright. Looking up and I fell on hard times. Hard times, they changed my mind. Got my head up, looking to the sky. Miss Lynn, she changed my life. Looking up and I fell on hard times. With her unique design. Got my head up, looking to the sky.
Erica Lynn speaks, so the Erica Lynn speaks, so the Erica Lynn speaks, yeah, yeah. Erica Lynn speaks, so the Erica.
Hello, hello, hello. This is your girl, Erica Lynn, and welcome back to another wonderful episode of Erica Lynn Speaks podcast. Y'all know how we do it over here. We like to play big or go home. Who are we playing big for? We are playing big for ourselves, because if we don't play big for ourselves, no one else will. And the way to play big is truly discovering who you are, what your message is, and like how to even discover what your message is. So that's what we're going to be talking about today on today's podcast, how to discover your authentic message. But before we get started, I want you guys to do me a favor. Make sure you share this podcast with everybody you know. I don't care who it is. Say, Erica Lynn is on. Erica Lynn is on. I want you guys to enjoy this podcast. And when you share this podcast, make sure you hashtag Erica Lynn Fam, so that we know that you shared it and we can rep and support the fact that you shared the podcast. So if somebody have questions or whatever, we can assist you further. Anyway, you guys know we are live on 2 Facebook channels, Coach Erica Lynn and Erica Lynn Speaks. So I give them options. And don't forget, if you are not following me on YouTube, please subscribe to my YouTube channel on Erica Lynn Speaks on YouTube. So today, like I said, we're going to be talking about how to discover your authentic message, because I meet a lot of people that say, I have something I want to say, or they have these dreams and hopes and visions that they want to share with their world, but they don't know how to put it together in words, on paper, or anything. And so we're going to show you how to do that. So my guest for today's podcast, man, he's going to just blow you guys out the water. And I'll tell you a little bit about him. His name is Jessie Cole. He's an award-winning coach, communications and professional. He teaches and mentors faith-driven leaders how to communicate their message with authenticity and boldness. He is also the host of Kingdom Confidence Podcast and the creative advisor for the Sunlight Television Network. Like I'm stuttering today, right? He makes me nervous. Known as the Kingdom Confidence Coach, he has been featured in many publications, including Speakers Magazine and on a number of radio podcasts and TV programs. He also has a 15-year career expertise in professional speaking and publishing. Cole's relatable presence appeals to leaders who desire to find a deeper level of significance in the work that they do. He's an author of 6 books. He's my friend, my coach, and my mentor. And I just want you guys to put your hands together and welcome to the platform, Coach Jessie Cole. Hello, Coach Jessie. How are you?
I'm still winning. How are you?
Man, you know what? I love it when you say that. From the first day that I met you, I was like, man, that's a saying that's just going to live beyond you. And like, I wanted to use that. And they're like, where you get that from? Coach Jessie Cole.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to be here on with you today. It's been a long time since we talked, so this should be fun.
Yes. I said, and I love the way that you coach, because what people don't know was you were my mentor. You coached me as well. But you didn't allow me to get away with BS, so to speak. You just demanded and expected the best. And so if I came with mediocrity, you like, hey, that's not on the level that you should be on. Go back, work on it, and get it better. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're very welcome. That's what we call graceful accountability. There are tasks that we have to complete. There's a standard, but we don't tear you down. We build you up.
Absolutely, absolutely. And like the building up that you did for me, it not only did you pour into me, but the pouring into me allowed me to pour out to others. And I have to tell people that it takes a village not only to raise a family, but it also takes a village to help a leader, because people think they think that leaders don't need things, like they just get up there and they lead and they're okay, but leaders get drained out too. And so that brings us to what we're going to be talking about today. One of the things we're going to be talking about is one of your books, Leading with No Apologies. Like, what does that mean, leading with no apologies?
Yeah, that's a good question. So that book, I believe I released it in 2015, 2018, somewhere around there. And I was working for a nonprofit organization, and I was on the trajectory of, just rising up in the organization, but I was looking at the people who were above me, and I had to ask myself, do I want to become like them, right? Do I want to lead like them? And my answer was, even though they were good people, I knew I was called to do something different, lead something different. And typically when you do that, that comes with a lot of kickback. Oh, you think you're better than us, right? Or you think that, you know more than us, right? And so what was happening was, I started at the bottom. I started off as a volunteer. And over the course of a year and a half, 2 years, I began to go up in the organization, and the people that I was starting off with, they saw me rising, and I began to get that kickback. So as I was feeling all these different feelings, all these different limiting beliefs that were kind of holding me back from being who I was called to be, I began to realize, like, you know what, Jess, you need to start leading and be unapologetic about it. You know who you've been called to be. It doesn't matter who says what about you. You lead with no apologies. And I just began to journal how I was feeling every single day. This is how I feel. And God has begun to show me the type of leader I can be in this organization. That's where that book comes from.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I do find that, and I personally know some leaders, whether they're in business or speaking, that they'll give a command and like feel scared, so to speak, or they can't handle the blowback that comes from the decision that they made. But all being a leader, you have to make a decision, and whether like some may be right and some may be wrong, but you got to stand by your decision and don't be apologetic about it.
Absolutely. I've had people, I had meetings in the office, people try to fight you, and, like really this stuff happens in that kind of environment. And so you really have to check yourself. You have to know why you're there. What is my purpose? What is my assignment while I'm here? And every day remind yourself of, okay, this is why I'm here. This is my assignment. No matter what happens, I'm not going to let anything and anybody take me off my square, because I know I have to complete this objective.
Yeah. No, that's pretty cool. And one of the other things that when I first started like following you and understanding, you talked about bringing God into the boardroom or bringing God into business. And I and many other people probably struggle with, how do you bring God into a business environment? So how were you led to not even be scared to do it or to implement that into the boardroom?
Yeah, so that's a great question as well. Oftentimes, especially in traditional business practices, we're told that this is what's successful. This is what makes you successful. This is what you need to do. You leave all that faith stuff out the window. You come here and you make these calls. You come here and you do whatever I tell you to do. But God began to show me that I didn't have to separate who I was in the marketplace with who I was to Him. Like I can bring it all to the table. Now that doesn't mean I'm coming into the meetings and I'm preaching and Bible thumping. It's like, no, I'm carrying the fragrance of Christ with me wherever I go. So it's not something I have to turn on. It's just something that I am. And you'll be surprised at how many people, when they notice that you are a believer and, they're quiet about their faith, but they notice that you are a believer, they'll pull you to the side and say, you know what, Coach Jessie, I'm glad that you said that. You know what, I'm glad that you made that comment, because now it kind of changed the trajectory of where we're trying to go. So anybody that's watching or listening right now, if you've been called to the marketplace, You don't have to separate who you are as a business person and who you are as a believer. There's no separation. You can be everything God has called you to be. You just got to find out what that looks like in your context.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, and don't be apologetic about it.
Yeah, don't be apologetic, but do it in a way that's graceful, right? We have to make sure that we read the room. We don't have to be loud about it all the time. It's just how we carry ourselves. Like your fruit will speak for you if you are walking it out right.
The right way. Yeah. Yeah. Now that's very good. So I hope that message bless somebody, because I'm sure people deal with that or struggle with it every day. Like, how do I be a believer and blend that into my everyday life? Because some people have one foot in the door and one foot out the door because they don't know how to balance, both, or don't know that you can't implement God, your spiritual life in your everyday life. And so they struggle with that. And so when people struggle with it, sometimes they be like, well, I can't go to Christ because it's going to affect my money, or it's going to affect like the relationship I'm in or the business deals that I do. But have you ever had to turn down or go, any deals because people had struggled with that in you?
Yes, actually, as you brought that up, there was a partnership on the table to go like a speaking engagement, right? To speak to some leaders, and they did their research on me. They looked at my bio, they looked at my website, and even though we talk about leadership, when they were watching my videos, and they were hearing a lot about kingdom, and they were afraid that I would come into the organization and try to evangelize, right? But they don't understand that this is what I do, so I understand how to do that in a way that is not offensive, but it's still effective, right?
Right.
And so I got the call today saying, man, we believe that you're a great fit, but our CEO just doesn't think that if you come in that you won't be offensive. So we have to pass on this contract. And I was like, and I've had it happen before. It didn't bother me because I understand who I am. I understand what I've called to do. So it didn't bother me at all, but it has happened before.
Yeah, yeah. And it has happened to me too. I was booked and paid for to speak at a school. And when I got to the school, they showing me around and where we're going to speak. And then the lady says, oh yeah, you can't mention God in your speech because we have different religions here and we don't want to offend anyone. Well, you should have said that, in the beginning before you booked me or before you paid your money when I asked you all of the requirements of what you're looking for. And so, of course, I still spoke about God and because they paid me already, what they're going to do, like just not have me back. You know what I mean? I wasn't going to change who I am or what I was speaking about, especially if I didn't know this ahead of time,
I think
And so,
I think
go
there's
ahead.
a way. Yeah, I think there's a way to do it without being like overtly offensive, right? It's all about, I believe, when you carry the fragrance of Christ with you, there's nothing that anybody can do or say to diminish that fragrance. Even if you don't say God or Jesus in your talk, there's somebody in that audience that's going to smell that fragrance, right? So for me, it's all about having a kingdom mindset, not a church mindset, right? A kingdom mindset means that this is my lifestyle. This is what I do. I understand how to maneuver in these kind of rooms. I know if I'm speaking at a church, what I can do. I know if I'm speaking at a Fortune 500 company, what I can do. But kingdom never leaves. We're always carrying that around with us. So that's nothing that we have to be ashamed of. That's nothing that we have to suppress. We just have to understand how to carry it in a way that's graceful.
Absolutely. And when you listen to Les Brown, I've yet to hear him say a speech that he didn't quote a scripture, like maybe 2 or 3 scriptures, and people book him all over the world. So if he didn't lack and didn't change his message, we shouldn't have to either, right?
Absolutely.
And so that brings us to what we're going to be talking about tonight, like how to discover your message. So I want to know, like, so a person, they have an idea, like they want to be a speaker or they want to help people. So they have this idea, but they don't know how to relay it, meaning they don't know how to put it in a message and deliver it to their audience. So let's talk about that a little. Like, how do a person even get started on discovering what their message is?
Yeah. So there's a framework that I take my clients through, real simple, but it goes real deep, right? Oftentimes we're told that in order for us to go to our next level, we have to go higher. But I believe that as leaders, in order for us to go higher, we got to go deeper first, right? And so this is what I call the Relatable Authority Framework. And there's 5 questions that we go through before we even get to phase 2. Question number 1, what is my message? Right? What is my message? Not what message do I want to copy, not what is the popular thing to talk about, but what is my unique message, right? What has your life prepared you for? What continues to happen to you and through you, and you continue to come back to this one theme? What is your message, right? The second question is, who needs this message? We've been told a lie. We've been told that everybody needs our message. That's not true.
That's not
right? It's not true. When you write a book, everybody's not going to read your book. Your book is not for everybody. Your speech is not for everybody. You are not for everybody, right? And so who needs my message? Meaning, when you look at your life and you look at the threaded connectivity between everybody that you've encountered, what kind of people continue to be drawn to your sphere of influence? What, like, is it male or female? What are their issues? What are their dreams and aspirations? Like, what kind of people continue to be drawn to you, right? So what is my message? Who needs my message? The third question that you have to answer is, why do they need my message? What are they going through right now that your message can be a solution to get them to the next level? Our job as leaders is not to get them from point A to point Z. It's to get them from point A to point B.
Yeah,
that's it, right? We're not their saviors. Jesus already did that, right? Our job is to fill in the gap. So why do they need my message? What are their pain points? What do they need right now? What are their dreams? What are their aspirations? And really tapping in to that. Not what you want to give them, but what does your message give them? And the fourth question, a lot of leaders have a problem with this one, is, why am I the one to share this message? Why me? Like, what qualifies me to share this message? It really speaks to that whole imposter syndrome that many leaders, many people deal with. I'm not smart enough. I'm not tall enough. I'm not pretty enough. I didn't come from a wealthy family. I don't have enough education. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough influence. All of these, I'm not, right?
Yeah.
Here's what qualifies you to share your message. The fact that you have gone through it, you have the battle scars, you have the social proof, and you have the transformational principles that you've learned from that experience. That's what qualifies you.
Wow. Say it.
Yeah.
Say it. Say it.
And the last question is, how does my message transform lives?
Yeah.
One thing that we teach in our programming is we don't speak and we don't write from a place that we're not transformed from, right? We don't write from bitterness. We don't speak from bitterness, right? So how does your message transform lives? Like, right from a transformational place, because as people are reading your book or listening to your speech, they can sense whether you're healed or not. They can sense whether or not you believe what you're talking about. So when you're standing on stage or when you are producing your book, like however you are communicating your message on your podcast, make sure you do it from a place of transformation and not trauma.
Yeah.
Because that type of energy, it bleeds over into other people's lives, and you don't want to do that, right? So the 5 questions is, what is my message? Who needs it? Why do they need it? Why am I the one to share it? And how does my message transform lives?
Wow, that's really good. Because if you think about, if you like go a little deeper into all of them, you say, well, most people say, I just want to help people. Do you normally get like that bland? That's like such a broad answer. How do you make a person go from being so broad to really define, actually, I just want to help. How do you want to help? Like, how do you how do you pull that out of them?
Yeah, that's a process right there, right? Because
Okay.
I do hear that a lot, or my message is for everybody, or I just want to help people, and that sounds cute, right? That sounds good. Like we should want to help people,
Yeah.
but how? Do you want to make Kool-Aid every day and give them Kool-Aid? You helping people, right? Do you want to cook French fries and give it to kids every day? Like that's helping people, right? So like what specific way are you going to help them? I say this a lot. There's a difference between your purpose and your assignment. Your purpose is why you were created, but your assignment is how you demonstrate it. Ooh, that's some good eating. I've said that a million times, but every time I say it, I get the tingles, right? So your purpose is why you were created. Why are you here? What's the reason why God put you here? Your specific thing. Of course, people say, I'm here to glorify God. I'm here to help people. We know that. We know that. But specifically, why are you like, if you don't do this one thing, it's going to prevent people from getting their breakthrough. What is that thing?
Yeah.
All right. And then what is your assignment? How do you demonstrate that? Right. So my purpose in life is to encourage and equip leaders to become the better version of themselves, right? Which is a reflection of Christ. So that's my purpose. But how do I do that as a father? How do I do that as a husband? If you meet me in a grocery store line, how do I do it then? As a coach, how am I demonstrating my purpose? Right? That's the whole assignment piece, right? So when you understand your assignment, it just illuminates your purpose.
That's pretty powerful, because I think back, for those who don't know, Jesse helped me with my book that came out, The 7 Techniques of Healing. He designed it and did everything, just like laid it out. But the process of creating the book was like, what is my message? What do I want to share, with the world? And then I just remember that, and it always sticks out to me, the one part in the book where I wanted to write it and I wanted my slang to stand out. And you was like, it doesn't make grammatical sense. You can't say this. I said, but it has feeling to it, the way that I'm gonna say it. And you just can't say it. You can't write it like that. And so of course you changed it. And I thank you for changing it, because I've had to read that passage so many times in front of different audiences. And I was saying to myself, I thank him for making me change that. But because you were clear on your leadership abilities, you were able to lead me in the right direction and show me or help me to how to share my message with others. So thank you for that.
You're very welcome. I believe I remember that conversation because there was pushback, and there was like several days of pushback. I'm like, Erica is tripping right now, right? And you would always apologize. I'm sorry. I'm like, no, this is part of the process. But I believe I told you, if I'm not mistaken, you can write it like this, but when you speak it at your conferences, you can say it how you want to say it. But when people are reading it, they need to be able to hear your voice, but like not really get your attitude, right? But when you talk in person, you can give all the attitude that you want, right? And so I think that's working out for you. Yeah.
It does, because when I read one, that's the one passage that I read out of the book all the time when I'm speaking or people ask me about the book, because I think that message is just so powerful, and it really always moved the crowd. And every time I read it, I always think about you, and I just kind of laugh a little bit, It was a really cool process, and you are doing a great job out here, just changing lives and leading with no apology, But then when we talk, so your first principle again was what? Because I don't have them put up on the screen.
Yeah. What is my message?
What is your message? And then the second principle,
who needs my message?
Who needs my message? So we all think like you said, everybody needs my message, but it's not true, because when people start going to my website, they were saying the same thing, because my website talks about 7 techniques of healing, right? And healing, but I'm also a motivator. So I was like, I was getting turned down from some jobs because people thought that I was just going to come in and be sad. Oh, let's be sad and be kumbaya and cry. I more so talk about let's push past that. And so I thought everybody would want to hear my message. But then I quickly learned it doesn't take you a long time to learn that everybody don't want to hear your message. But if you don't quickly understand that everybody doesn't want to hear your message, your feelings will get hurt. So how does a person avoid hurt feelings?
I think that's a heart issue, a heart and expectation issue, right? And so, we kind of, some people, they get it. I have some clients that just get it like, wow, my message is about, I don't know, grief, like overcoming grief with your faith. Everybody doesn't need that message right now. So we help them identify, okay, who could actually benefit from this? And it allows them to have a more targeted approach in their marketing, in their promotion, when they get up and speak in front of people, their presentations, whether they do a podcast, like it allows them to speak to the person that it's for. Now, here's the thing. Many of us have more than one message, right? And that's okay. That's okay. And sometimes, when we have more than one message, we try to put all those messages into one presentation or to one book, when really it's not really serving your audience that well because it's convoluted. It's not clear. So making sure that everything is clear. If your message is about overcoming grief, if your message is about this is how you cook chicken, like whatever your message is, let's get clear on it. Who needs this? And let's talk to them. And I know that this is hard to really figure out what that is for people who have never done this before. It was hard for me when I first did. When I first became an author and a speaker, I was trying to speak at and everywhere, at schools, at churches, at funerals. I was like, I just want to get on stage, right? And for like that kind of, it worked for me as far as learning how to speak in front of people. But as far as disseminating my message in a clear way, it didn't work. It didn't really work for me. When I first started, I had like seven different speeches. And I'm like, what am I doing? I can't remember all this stuff. So I had to figure out, okay, Jessie, what are you good at? What is your unique message? And how do you deliver this message in a way that can help your audience grow? And once I did that, that's when things began to change for me. That was way back in, this is my 15th year as a professional speaker. And there are times where I'm giving the same speech I gave way back then, and that same speech is making me money to this day.
Yes.
That's not clear.
Yes. Now that's pretty good. Because I remember when I said, I can't remember my speech. And you said, well, you will start to remember after experiences, after things that you experience in your life, you implement them in your speech. And then I also was at a point where I wanted to, like you said, we have many messages, and I was starting to feel like I don't want to keep talking about healing. Like I just want to be the motivator, right? That's where I'm at. Like seriously, I was telling my team, like we about to change the website. I just want to be the motivator. I want to be the girl version of Les Brown. And then the funniest thing happened. I get a phone call from the rescue mission, and they saying, "Hey, Dr. Portia, recommend you. We want you to come down here and speak." And so I only had like a couple of days to prepare. So how do I prepare? I pull out that old faithful 7 techniques of healing speech. And when I got up there and I did the speech, it was like the first time that I ever did it. But all of these experiences that I went through were able to come out in the speech, and to look out in the audience and to see all of these women crying and just really feeling the speech. Then I understood that God was saying to me, it's not meant for you to do away with what you started, not saying that you can't have an additional speech, but this is the core of who you are, because although I'm healed, there's many people who haven't reached their healing point yet.
Yeah. I want to encourage anybody that's watching or listening right now that I know we're talking about standing on stages and platforms, and you're thinking about speeches. Like whenever we use the word message, you're probably thinking about a speech or a book. But what we're really saying is this: your message is something that you live out. Yeah, you talk about it, but if you were to pull up the sleeves of my coat right now, you would see the battle scars of my messages, because I've lived this thing out. I can talk about it anywhere. I don't have to look at a piece of paper because it's in my heart. It's part of my life experience. So when you're able to be your own social proof of your message, it no longer becomes a speech. It becomes a lifestyle. Once it becomes a lifestyle, you can weave in and out of that thing. You can have your main points, but you can weave in and out of that thing so well because you're living this thing out.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We've been taught that you got to do it this way and be rigid and stand here and move this way. Listen, when I'm talking on the stage, like, listen, I don't stand in one place. I don't even like being on stage. If I can, I like to be down there with the people because I can exchange. I like to feel that energy. Yeah. I like to touch people and look in their eyes and give them high fives and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Because I'm living this thing out. This is not a presentation for me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's really good because it is good for people to understand what we are actually talking about. We just live our lives through speaking and books because that is who we are. That's what we do. But there's so many people who have messages that they have to relay in other ways. And it is important for you to discover what that message is. But can you give just a few other examples of messages that people want to deliver, but in other ways other than books and speaking?
Yeah. So it's, first of all, it starts with you understanding what your message is, what you've lived out, right? Being able to reach back into your life and pull out those transformational principles so that you can share with people. That's what it starts with that, right? So you can do it in a book, you can do it in a speech, you can do it on a podcast, right? Without your book, you wouldn't have no podcast, right? Without your book, you wouldn't have a curriculum going into prisons and speaking, right? Without your book, without your message, you wouldn't have a coaching program. Without your message, you wouldn't have your gift box that you send out, right? Without your message, you wouldn't have merchandise. Without your message, you wouldn't have wristband. Like, it all starts with the message. There are so many different ways that you can disseminate your message to the world, but it starts with the message. Whether you holding your cell phone up and you're doing Facebook Lives every day, you're disseminating a message. Yeah. Right? Whether you're doing chats with people, voice chats, like you're disseminating, it starts with you understanding what your unique message is and then talking about it enough to the point that you get comfortable with it, because the more you talk about it, you're going to evolve, you're going to get better, you're going to get more confident, you're going to begin to weave different stories into it to bolster up your message. But it starts with you understanding that you have something to say. Mm-hmm. Like God has not created you for no reason. Like, there's a reason why you're here. Yeah. And whether you stand on a stage or whether you are in a classroom or whether you are behind a microphone or a camera like we are today, there's somebody out there who needs what you have. Yes. Your presence shifts perspectives. And if you refuse to show up, then somebody else is not going to get what they need. Like, that's how deep this stuff is.
Yes. Yes, that is so true. Because I remember when I finished the book, and you said it first, but so many people said the same thing after you. You was like, I apologize, or I'm sorry that that's happened to you, but I'm glad that you're sharing your message. And so every time somebody read the book, the first thing that they say to me is, I'm sorry that happened to you. But then I started understanding that there are, and still is, so many women who have went through verbal abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, and they feel or think that that's all their life will ever be. But for me to still be standing and showing that that's what my life was, that is not who I am now. I chose to go through my healing process. It gives them hope that they can go through their healing process and be whoever they want to be. And so sometimes your message that a person shares is something that you don't think that you would share with the world, right? Because it's so personal. And it's like, oh my God, I don't want anybody to know I was abused. I don't want anybody to know I was touched. I don't want anybody to know that I was out here in the streets doing things that I didn't have any business doing.
Yeah.
But I understood one thing once I finished, that some people say, because you said it in your countdown, some people say, how can you teach me something if you haven't experienced anything yourself?
Mm.
And so that was one of your principles, correct?
Yeah. 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 Um, I'm really big on like teaching through story.
Yes.
I have a vivid memory of things that have happened to me in the past, and God has just given me this gift to be able to pull out those principles. And so I want to share something with you that you kind of touched on, but I don't think you realize you touched on it, like the spirit of rejection. One reason why people don't go put themselves out there is because they don't want to be rejected.
Yes.
And about 4 or 5 years ago, I had an encounter with somebody that I have a lot of respect for, and we were communicating via email. I consider her to be a mentor, a spiritual mentor of mine. And she said something in that email that kind of like took me back. I got offended, right? But when I read the email again, what she wrote wasn't offensive at all. It was just how I took it.
Yeah.
And I didn't like how that felt. I didn't like how I felt on the inside. So I asked God, like, God, what is that? Why did I feel that way? I don't like that. I don't want that.
Yeah.
And he revealed to me that I was dealing with this spirit of rejection.
Mhm.
And he took me back to when I was 10 or 11 years old. And that was the first time I ever felt that way.
Mhm.
Something happened to me in church. My cousins and my brothers, we would always, whenever there was a singing happening in our church, we would always want to get on the program because we were young kids in the church. Everybody else is older. We wanted to sing too. And so we had an opportunity to sing. And the MC brought us up to the stage and he made a joke. And the whole church began to laugh.
Mhm.
I thought they were laughing at us,
Mhm.
but they were really laughing because we were kids, like doing this grown up stuff. So they were kind of encouraging us. But I didn't interpret it that way. All I saw was looking out at the sea of people and they looking at us, laughing at us.
Mhm.
That was the first time I ever felt that spirit of rejection.
Mm.
And from that point on, that spirit, now that I look back on it, it impacted my relationships. It
Mm.
impacted how I did business, how I showed up in the world. And I asked God, heal my heart from that because I don't want to serve from a place of rejection.
Yeah.
And through that journey, God began to show me how the spirit of rejection was keeping me from being everything he called me to be. The
Yeah.
spirit of rejection would cause you to play small. The spirit of rejection would cause you to hide. The spirit of rejection would cause you to get defensive. The spirit of rejection had all of these different things that were happening to me. And he began to show me that as he was healing me, I can now implement these principles in my coaching program whenever I encounter somebody who deals with the same thing,
Mhm.
right? So you just heard me tell a story about something that happened in my life, about the spirit of rejection. And if you're listening right now, you were all into that message
Mhm.
because now I'm not speaking from a place of trauma anymore, but I'm empowered to share from a place of transformation. That's what a message can do.
Yes. Amen. So that, now that was powerful because I was all into the story and then just like everybody else. And sometimes when you're able to tell a powerful story, a person can visualize your story and they can obtain the message a lot better because whenever they think of that principle or that message is always going to bring them back to that story and like, oh, what did he say? Or, oh, they're always going to think about Jesse and his spirit of rejection. And then they can apply it into their own life because they see how you were able to apply it to your life. And then they can take that principle if they deal with that particular principle and apply it to their own lives as well.
Absolutely.
So that's pretty good. So I was thinking, if anybody have any questions for Coach Jesse or myself, go ahead and put them down in the chat box and we'll address them, because we have about 15-20 minutes left of the podcast. So just to let you guys know, go on and put your questions down, and while we're continuing the interview, we'll address your questions as well. And so but yeah, so having a message and people being afraid to share their message, like yours was the spirit of rejection, but what would you say would be some other reasons why people are afraid to like get out there and share their message with others? Because it doesn't have to be on large platforms, of course, to share.
I know there's some people, they're just afraid of being successful because they won't know how to handle it. Like what do I do if I put my message out there and people actually began to see transformation? How do I handle that? And
like, you was just speaking to me, right? I'm just gonna tell you.
Yeah, as I was talking, I just began to see people's faces.
Yeah.
Right? Because I know what that looks like. I know what that feels like. Yeah. To know that you're powerful. To know that you're big. Like earlier this year, God told me that I asked God, how do you see me? He said, I see you as big. I've given you room to be big. Now go be big. Yeah. I was excited, but that scared me at the same time, because I'm like, how do I steward that? How do I manage that? Yeah. And I want to encourage somebody that feels like God has called you to something greater, something bigger, that is not your responsibility to control it. Right? The word tells us not to lean on our own understanding, but in all our ways acknowledge him. Like, that's one of my favorite scriptures. It comes out all the time. In all our ways acknowledge him. Just like Solomon did, right? Solomon said, God, these are a lot of people, right? I can't lead all these people. Like, show me how to lead all these people. And God showed him, you know what? You can do it. And because you didn't ask for riches and fame, I'm going to give that to you too. Right? Because his heart was right. Yeah. So we have to make sure that our heart is right. We are not in control. It's not our job to control what God is doing. It's our job to steward it. Yeah. It doesn't belong to us anyway. So for that person that's like, okay, if I put my stuff out there, if I begin to speak about my message and it begins to work, how do I manage that? Right? Yeah. I would encourage you to ask God this question, and you have to have an intimate relationship in order to get your answer. Okay. God, what is your best for me in this area?
That's deep.
Because I know what my best is.
Yeah.
I can manufacture my best.
Yeah.
But God, what is your best for me?
Yeah.
And you have to be ready to receive that answer. Because oftentimes his best is not our best. His best doesn't take a whole lot of work. It just takes us flowing in our assignment and being in alignment with him. Right? Yeah. So for the person that's, okay, I'm scared to be successful, that's I'll get that to you. For the person who is afraid of the haters that may say something to you, like, what if I put that out there and people start hating on me? Well, they hated Jesus too, all right? I would encourage you to not even put a lot of energy into people that's hating on you. Yeah. Celebrate the people that are celebrating you.
Yes.
So if you have supporters, people that are calling you, texting you, inboxing you, saying, girl, that's a good job you did, or bro, man, you did an awesome job, then put your energy and time into those people.
Yeah.
Because those are the kind of people that's going to hold your arms up when you get weak.
Yeah.
You don't have any strength, right? That's going to carry you through.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The overall message here is, it's not about you. We're all on assignment. Mm-hmm. Stay faithful to your assignment, whether it hurts or not. Stay faithful to your assignment, and God's going to do the rest. Be diligent in your work, right? That doesn't mean don't do anything. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean you don't have any responsibility. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that you can't complete any task, right? Faith without works is dead, being alone. So be diligent in your work, but make sure that you're working in partnership with God and not in front of God.
All right now. Hey, you done said it all. I mean, I'm over here like he talking to me. He talking to me because and I always like to be transparent and authentic with my audience because people feel that when you have a podcast or you speaking on stage or you traveling, they put you as celebrity status. And that's fine, but I also want people to understand that I am human and I struggle with things just like other people. I just choose to share mine in front of the camera so that it could be a blessing and help somebody else that's
Yeah,
struggling with the same thing or something similar.
yeah.
So that's pretty powerful. So I thank you for that. Now, I had said in your intro that you are an author of 6 books. So let's talk about one of the other books that you have, Activate. Is that the one we were talking about? Activate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
50
tell us.
principles that will help you lead with confidence. I'm pretty sure you see a common theme. We're always talking about authenticity and confidence.
Mhm.
And there's a reason why, because that's the area that I struggled in my whole life, being authentic and being confident in my bigness, right? So that's a common thing. So that Activate book, that is more like, imagine that you had a bunch of speeches that you were to give, and you pulled out the highlights from each of those speeches. That's what Activate is. It's like the daily bread for kingdom-driven leaders. It's like quotes from my talks, but they're
Mhm.
paired with scripture. And so every day you can meditate on one of those quotes or one of those thoughts and one of those scriptures to get you through your day. That's all that Activate book is.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Because we want people, if you guys have something inside of you that need to be shared with the world, we want you to share it. So, how do you get to that point? You got to activate, the things that's inside of you. You have to activate the gifts and the talents that God gave you because to me, I would say it's so sad to have all this talent and these gifts and these messages, and you just keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
Like let's share it with the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Oftentimes we want it to be perfect when it comes out, right? But we know just through childbirth, when babies first come out, all of them ain't pretty. You know what I'm saying? So they have gook on them. They have all the birth stuff, blood and all the mucus. That's
Mm,
not pretty, right? And
yeah.
so, but it's still beautiful at the same time. And
Mm,
as a child begins to grow, we nurture it. We begin to instill principles, life principles into them. We begin to show them how to be leaders, how to live this life. And as they go along, they begin to be more refined. But when the message first comes out, it might not be pretty. And that's what a lot of people are afraid of. If I put this out, what if I make a mistake? If I do this Facebook Live, what if I stutter? What if I miss one of my points? What? Listen, and Erica laugh at you because right? We mess up all the time. Y'all might not know it,
yeah.
but I have to learn how to slow down when I'm talking because I get so excited,
Yes.
right? And so that's one of my flaws, but it's mine though. Like I know that I got to do that, right? But it's not always perfect. We can have notes for our Facebook lives or for our talks, and sometimes it just doesn't come out right.
Yeah.
But the fact that we showed up,
Yeah.
the fact that we showed up puts us ahead of the game because everybody's not showing up. It's easy to sit back and say, I can do it better than that. Oh, she messed up or he messed up. But are you doing something though? Are you in the state? Are you on the court? Are you on the field? It's easy to be in the stands and ridicule.
Yeah.
But it's a different type of energy, a different type of monster when you're on that field and you battling it out with
Yes.
yourself. Right. And so you're afraid because it's not going to come out perfect. I would say do it until you get better at it. You learn by doing. Speakers speak, writers write, coaches coach. We do it, we get better as we do it.
Yeah. Yes. That's pretty powerful because one of the things that because the podcast started in 2018, and there were spurts in the podcast where I would just be overwhelmed and I just didn't want to do it anymore, or something would go wrong that didn't allow me to maintain the podcast. And so I would just stop for like a month or 2 months. And I was like, ain't nobody gonna miss me. Then people started coming in my DMs like, hey, where are you? We haven't seen you. Is everything okay? And I was like, dang, people really do watch the podcast, because I was just thinking that I wasn't really providing any value.
Yeah.
And so through my experiences, what I learned was it is okay to take a break. Like Wendy Williams took a break. But when you take that break, you have to let your audience know we're on vacation from this week to that way. We'll be back, so they know that you're not gone, and then they can go and come back. Or like with the studio, I have the ability, like I did for the birthday podcast. I was going to go live, but I was honestly tired. So I took the podcast from last year, streamed it live, and I was good to go. So I didn't miss a beat. So I said, so through the things that I learned, that I needed to get the technology and things that I needed to make my business still run, even when I didn't feel like it.
Yeah.
But again, that was through knowledge and through experiences.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you are absolutely correct. But my mom, I always call her Martha, but my mom says, you have touched me this evening, Coach Jessie, especially about being afraid of your own light and not stepping out on what is real in my life.
Yeah.
You know, because she always used to say to me, her and her friends always used to say, oh, Erica, she has a light over her. There's a light shining through her. But because they said that to me as a young child, it made me afraid of who I really was. And so for many years, I ran from the person that you see today, because I always knew that I was supposed to be out here in the light and sharing. But because they told me that so early,
Yeah.
it made me afraid and I ran. So what would you say to someone who deals with the same thing?
Yeah. Man, I can identify with that. Right. That's one of the things that drives me as a father now, as I speak into my children. I believe that it's important to have not just positive people around you, but people that can equip you to be who God has called you to be.
Yeah.
I believe that we all have 3 types of mentors in our lifetime. We have foundational mentors.
Yes.
These are generally like our parents and our aunties and uncles, people who are instilling, principles. We see the world through their eyes first, right? All our core values come through them, whether good or bad. We're very impressionable as kids, so they are foundational mentors. And then we have our platform mentors. These are the people who can see, as you said, our light. They can see our potential, and they can help shape it for our platform, whatever that platform is. They give us access to tools and resources to be able to demonstrate what our purpose is in life. They provide the stage for us. And then we have legacy mentors. These are the people that take all that stuff from our platform and they show us how to lead others. They show us how to use everything that we have to give back to the next generation. They show us how to, take our money and multiply. They show us how to, get investments. Or for us, we have our own speaking and coaching brand of how do you do that and create multiple income streams out of that, right? It's all about legacy.
Okay.
The issue is oftentimes we don't know how to categorize these people. And so we have to understand that sometimes our foundational mentors are not our platform mentors.
Yes.
Oftentimes our platform mentors are not our legacy mentors.
Yeah.
So understanding how to put different people in those categories can help us navigate through life a lot easier. But to your point, you felt as if you had that light, you knew you had something on you. But just imagine if somebody would have not just said you had it on you, but they helped you navigate life like they helped equip you at the same time. As a father, I believe that's being a father is one of the most rewarding, but one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life.
Okay.
Because when I look at my children, I see a reflection of me. I see the things I need to work on, right? Because our our good parts and our bad parts are magnified in our children, right? And so I feel like when I'm looking at my son, I'm looking at a smaller version of Jesse. And so for him, I'm giving him what wasn't given to me. I always knew as a kid that I'm like, man, I'm different. Not better than everybody else, but I just felt like I was different. But I didn't have anybody around me who can speak into me and help equip me. He has that same kind of anointing on him. And because I felt that when I was a kid, now I feel like I'm equipped to help him at 8 years old. He's going to be further along than I was. So I'm not only speaking into him and he and my daughter, but he and my wife and I, we're equipping them with the tools to be effective leaders, even at this early age.
Yes. Yes. Now that is really powerful. And I want to preface this. You're doing it as a father and your children are young. There's so many parents who just did not know when their kids were younger. They had no clue. They didn't know. Like they weren't raised to know. And so you know, sometimes kids will grow up to be grown and they will fault their parents for what they didn't teach them.
Yeah.
But I can attest to this. I may have not known certain things when my children were younger, but they're all adults now. And I went through this transformation of learning and growing and knowledge. And as you know, my kids were part of the setup of this business.
Yeah.
And I understood because of the coaches and the people that were pouring into me that I need to teach them. So they know how to start a business and do all of the things that they saw me do. So what I'm saying is you're never too old to teach your children. I don't care if they 20, 30, 40, because how they live is not only through your life experiences, but through the things or the knowledge that you've obtained at your age. That's why people always say, if you want to know something, go and sit around your ancestors, go and sit around the older people. That's how you learn. Go meet and sit with the mothers of the church or the fathers, and you will begin to learn stuff. And you be like, oh dang, like, because like we don't know what it was like back then when they had segregation and all of these other things. And so now I begin to find it interesting to speak with the older generation because I understand not only what they went through, but now I have a more I value things differently.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that, because I don't want to give the impression that our parents or grandparents didn't do the best that they could. I never want to give that impression.
Yes.
Of course, there were things that we didn't get as a kid, but there were a lot of things that our parents did that made us who we are today. Like without our parents, without my parents, I wouldn't be here today. Without me sitting back and watching my father study his Bible for 20 hours a week and then get up on a Sunday and preach just to make $75 a Sunday, right? Me watching that as a kid, and now him watching me do what I do. Like without that example, I wouldn't be who I am. Without your mother, your mother said that you had a light when you were a kid, but I've been to your events and your mom is one of your biggest supporters. Like, so that same light that you had as a kid, listen to this now. This is it might sound simple, but it's not. The light that your mother professed on you as a kid, that same light is shining on her now.
Yes.
Because she gets to, she gets to sit and watch her daughter walk in her purpose. Yeah. And you trying to tell me she ain't proud about that?
Yes.
Oh, no, Mama Martha proud. Right?
Yes.
So like that, it's for us. It's every generation should get better than the last generation.
Absolutely.
Right. And
Absolutely.
Yes, there were things that we didn't get because a lot of times our parents didn't have it. They didn't know how, they didn't have the resource, they didn't have the knowledge. Yeah. But for many of us, our parents did the best that they could.
Yes.
And now it's our chance to do the best that we can for our kids and continue to go on and on and on after that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And before I read these next comments, I just want to say this. You had said that earlier, that when we're discovering our audience, sometimes you want to log on a Facebook Live and you want thousands of people to get on the live. But then you got my mother, my auntie Jeannie, who she says she just watching and sitting back. And then you have my team, Teaser and Deborah Wilson, which is one of my clients and also a client of yours. And I had to learn quickly that it's not going to be, maybe one day it will be thousands of people. But if it's 8 to 10 people or so that's watching this live right now, I have to nurture those 8 to 10 people, because what did the Bible say? Like, you have to take care of the people that's supporting you now so that you'll understand what you're going to do when the audience get greater. I don't know what the scripture is, but I know you know what I'm saying. But there is a lot of people who had that same ideology that when you log on, it's supposed to be thousands of people. Like when Les Brown log on or Cardi B or somebody log on, it's a whole bunch of people. But they did what they had to do to get that status of people. But they also, if you go back and watch their career, they also nurtured their audience when they only had 10 people watching them.
Yeah. You can't ask for 1,000 if you can't nurture. Right. And so making sure that we're celebrating the people who show up for us.
Yes.
Whether it's 5 or 10 or 1. I've had, Facebook Lives when nobody showed up, but I was talking like 1,000 people were in the room. Right.
Yeah.
And so, but I understand this, that even if nobody shows up, I'm building a catalog of content.
Yes.
So when somebody goes back and goes back to my pages, they can see, oh, if Jesse's been consistent with this.
Yeah.
He's not just this fly-by-night, somebody who's trying to pop up on the scene and try to get a bag and try to be this influencer and don't really got nothing to say. No, like, he don't got to do this, but he's doing it.
Yeah.
I can take that video and repurpose it.
Yeah.
Cut it up in little clips, put it all over the web, right? So there are so many things you can do when you show up and give your message in an authentic manner. So listen, 1,000 people may not show up, but if you got, I got a base of like 10 to 20 people who will always support what I do in some kind of way. And God has shown me I'm not saying that's all we have, but there's like, I can count on these 20 people to like, hey, listen, I got this going on. Can you spread this message for me? Right. And God has shown me how to appreciate these people on all different levels, how to lead these people, how to nurture these people, how to appreciate these people, so that when if a bigger audience does come, I know that I didn't get here alone.
Wow.
It's not about me.
Yeah.
It's so much bigger than me. It's so much bigger than having millions of followers. It's about your message and how your message is transforming the lives of those who are connected to you. That's
well said, because that's what we're talking about. Your message. Jalen over here clapping. I'm with him on that. So listen, I want to, before we get out of here, I want you to not only tell people how they can reach you, but I want you to leave them with a takeaway. You just gave them a nugget, but I know you got some more in that book of quotes and tricks that you got on up in there. So let everybody know how they can reach you.
Coach Jessie Cole everywhere. That's it. Right? On Facebook, on Instagram, on everywhere. So all social media, LinkedIn, YouTube, Coach Jessie Cole everywhere. It was done intentionally. So all I got to do is say Coach Jessie Cole everywhere. You put in Coach Jessie Cole in Google, you will see it, right? And so that's how you can find us. And I feel the need to say this. So there's a transition happening in my business. You've known me as, a book coach, right? I've been doing that for the last 4 or 5 years. Got pretty good at it. But I feel like God is transitioning me. So this will be my last year doing that. I have 6 more months to work with, some clients I have. At the end of this year, I'm going to be sunsetting the writing and publishing aspect of my business and really focusing on the coaching and the speaking, helping leaders communicate their message with authenticity and boldness, right? That's what I'm going to be focusing on. So if there's anybody watching right now that, you want to, tap in before the end of the year, that's fine. But at the end of the year, we'll be sunsetting that and really focusing on this other part of the business where I'm being called to. And so you want me to leave you with? I didn't give you an hour of worth of stuff, Erica. I know. But here's the thing. So I'll leave you. I'll leave you with this. I'll leave you with this story. And you can take it how you need it. There was a time where I was doing this leadership workshop. True story. I had left the premises and I was on my way home. But before I went home, I wanted to stop and get some gas and to get some snacks on my way home. So I ride up in the gas station, and as I'm driving to my pump, I see this gentleman who looks like he might have been homeless. He was digging in a garbage can. His clothes were soiled. He had a long beard, and it looked like it was, not clean. And Holy Spirit said, when you come back out, I want you to give him some money. And I had in my glove compartment, I had this bag of coins that I had been saving for all summer. I had about $10 worth of quarters, dimes, nickels, pennies, some Canadian coins in there as well, right? So I was going to give him this bag of coins. So I parked my car. I walk into the gas station, pay for my gas, buy my snacks, come back out, and I didn't see him. He was gone, right? So I pumped my gas, got back in the car. Next thing I know, he just reappears on the side of my car, digging in the garbage can next to my car. So I said, great, I can give him this money. So I reached into my glove compartment, rolled my window down and said, excuse me, sir, here you go. You don't got to dig in the garbage. Here's some money. He looked up at the money, looked back down at the garbage can, and he kept digging in the garbage. I kind of got offended. I'm trying to help you, man. I said, excuse me, sir. He looked back up, said, you don't got to do that today. Here's some money. He looked up at the bag of coins, looked down back at the garbage, reached up, put the coins in his pocket, and he kept digging in the garbage. I was perplexed because I'm like, listen, I know that this $10 worth of change is not going to change his life, but it probably could change his day. We had McDonald's over here, BK over there, Wendy's. He could have got something off the dollar menu or something. So I'm driving off, and I'm like, what was that? And I got convicted because many of us are just like that gentleman. Every day we're given a new opportunity to get better. We're given a new opportunity to get it right, to get our message out there. But we continue to dig in the garbage. Dig in the garbage of what, Coach Jessie? Of our past. We rehash those traumatic events. We are committing to habits that no longer work anymore. Every day, we're given an opportunity to get better, but we don't. And I want to encourage somebody today, equip you, empower you, whatever you need. I want you to do a personal survey, like survey your life. And I want you to ask yourself tonight, in what way have I been digging in the garbage? And whatever that is, I want you to stop. Stop digging in the garbage. Stop committing to habits that no longer serve you. Stop giving energy to relationships that bring you down and don't bring you up. Right? Stop replaying those negative thoughts in your mind that don't push you further. Go back and fix that relationship that you've been avoiding. Make that phone call. Send that text. Send that email to the person that you know you've been beefing with for the last 3 or 5 years. And all you got to do is drop your pride and say, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Right?
Wow.
So whatever your garbage is, stop digging in your garbage and let's get better.
Wow, that's deep. That is so deep. I just want to say thank you so much for coming on this podcast and showing people how to discover their message. Tell them to stop digging in their garbage with just leave the old things alone. Once you heal from it, then walk in your newness. Not that you're going to forget your past, but just to look back and say, oh, I overcame that. Man, that was powerful. Thank you so much. We got to have you back on the podcast one day soon, or something when you transition into what you're going to be doing in your business. Then we're going to have you back so that you can promote that, and so people can follow you and see what you're doing when you change what you're doing now to what you're going to be doing in 6 months.
Yeah.
Would that be all right with you?
Absolutely. I'm always open to be on this show.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much again for coming on the podcast and blessing my audience. I know, look, they saying, thank you, Lord. I don't know if we shouting or crying, but you did your thing today. And that is why they call you Coach Jessie Cole, because you just you touch me. And everybody else. So thank you so much for sharing the stories and the principles. And we have to connect soon on a greater scale on something. I want something big for 2023, but we'll talk about it.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm here for it.
Awesome. Well, God bless you. And I'll see you soon.
Absolutely.
Well, you guys, I hope that if you didn't get blessed like I did, I don't know what podcast y'all was watching, because y'all weren't watching this one. Next week's podcast, we're going to have Danielle Jones back. You know, my sister, when she talked about the 30-day water challenge. So I hope you guys have been drinking your water and have been exercising more, cleaning out your blood, like she said. So she's going to come back and bring some more things on here to help you stay healthy and fit. Man, the birthday, I celebrated my birthday for 10 days. Like, I hope you guys were celebrating while I was celebrating, or at least enjoying me celebrating, because I was. And so I don't know. I had to come down off that celebration high and get back into podcast mode and making sure I touch my audience. And so you guys make sure that, again, if you are not following me on Facebook, you can do that on Erica Lynn Speaks on Facebook, as well as Coach Erica Lynn, or I think Facebook is just Erica Lynn. Share the podcast. Make sure if you have any questions, or if you have some questions for Coach Jessie, continue to put them down in the comments section. Put hashtag Erica Lynn Fam when you share this podcast or your questions, and my team is going to go in and pull your questions out to make sure that we're able to answer your questions or deliver you what you're looking for. Because if I don't know the answer, I'm going to work hard to make sure you get the answer. But you guys are all part of Erica Lynn Fam, and I appreciate and I love you guys for always joining me every week, just doing your thing, showing up, showing out, just making sure that the podcast live on. And like, the comments are still coming in. They got blessed. You know, my aunt, my mom, Deborah, and everybody else that's watching. I really, really appreciate your love and support for joining the podcast every week. Like, just really, really, like he said, you know, if I haven't said it before, I want to make sure that I'm saying it today. I love you guys and I appreciate you. And we're going to continue to do things for you guys coming forward in the near future. Stay tuned, because y'all know Coach Erica Lynn is going to drop some fire real soon. So God bless you guys. And I'll see you next Wednesday at 7 p.m. on Erica Lynn Speaks Podcast, YouTube, and 2 Facebook channels. And always remember to take one step beyond you. God bless you guys. I'll see you next week. This podcast was brought to you by EricaLynnSpeaks.com. Sign up for your free consultation today at EricaLynnSpeaks.com/work with me. And just remember, it only takes just one step beyond you.
Beyond you. I say Erica Lynn Speaks.